I love the Southern 500. A lot of good tonight. A sellout crowd, another new winner, 17th of the season. A lot of playoff drivers setting the tone early. A lot of bad as well. Drivers with issues, crashes. Kyle Busch blowing a motor while leading under caution with less than 25 laps to go, and also a lot of ugly. Kevin Harvick catching on fire and slamming NASCAR in the next gen in his post-race interview. There's no shortage of topics to discuss tonight on Out of the Groove. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, Darlington Race Review Edition. It's the Southern 500. It's the playoff opener. We have much to discuss. But first, I want to thank Jockey for sponsoring this episode. Jockey Made in America. Saw them tonight on Daniel Suarez's very patriotic 99 Chevrolet. Jockey sent me several of these very comfortable t-shirts, which have come in handy this past summer with all the heat and high temperatures. Remember, there's only one Jockey Made in America, the most comfortable t-shirt you'll ever wear. You can find out more by visiting jockey.com. That link is down in the description below. I'm scrolling through my notes. I don't even know where to begin. You know what? Let's begin with the winner and then we can focus on the playoff picture. So Erik Jones played playoff spoiler tonight, winning his second Southern 500, his third career win, his first win since his first Southern 500 win, which came back in 2019. Erik Jones ran inside the top 10 and almost inside the top 5 for the vast majority of this race, but he took the lead with about 22 laps to go after first Martin Truex Jr., the race leader, overheated, had a power steering issue and went behind the wall. And then when the new leader, Kyle Busch, suddenly blew up under caution, smoke billowing out of both exhaust pipes, suddenly Erik Jones found himself the control car for the final restart. He took the lead, had to hold off a third JGR car, Denny Hamlin, who got really close there the last couple of laps, but wasn't able to complete the pass. Very difficult to pass at Darlington tonight, as is pretty typical for the Lady in Black. Erik Jones gets the win. Not a playoff driver, but he is the 17th different winner through the first 27 races this year. Crazy scene out there in Darlington. This is GMS's first win since jumping into the NASCAR Cup Series this year, now partnering with Richard Petty GMS. This is the first win for the 43 car since 2014 Daytona. I was at that race. It was Aric Almirola winning a rain-shortened summer event. Really cool stuff all around. Erik Jones is fantastic at Darlington. I tweeted this stat out in the closing laps, but when he was with Joe Gibbs Racing, Jones finished 5th, 8th, 1st, 8th, 5th, and 4th in 6 Darlington starts. That Jones boy was in his element. Those closing laps didn't put a wheel out of place and got the victory. Really happy for Jones, really happy for Petty GMS. This is a true upset. That 43 team has shown speed at times this year. They've been fairly close, but winning straight up at one of the most difficult tracks on the circuit, just a banner night all around for Petty GMS and Erik Jones. Love to see it. Unfortunately, it came partially at the expense of Martin Truex Jr. I want to talk about Truex real quick before we get into the playoff drivers, because he probably had the best car, at least in the second half of this race. Once the sun went down, the 19 came to life. They had the speed, they played the pit strategy right. He had like a 4-second lead in the closing laps when suddenly the power steering went out. Just a fluke deal. Kyle Busch was able to pass him on the racetrack. Truex and team ended up taking that car behind the wall. They did not finish this race. And Martin Truex Jr. in his post-race interview talking to NBC Sports just sounded defeated, man. Like, we've seen Truex show some emotion in the past for sure, but usually he's very stoic, very straight-faced. You could hear the waver in his voice. You just hate it for Truex because he hasn't done anything wrong this year. He just hasn't been able to win. Like, even during this race, and I didn't see it myself, but somebody tweeted out this graphic. I assume they showed this at some point tonight on USA Network. Why Truex didn't make the playoffs. Look at this. Finished 4th in the regular season standings. 7 stage wins, most of all drivers. The second best average finish. Like, sure, hasn't been as good this year as he's typically been in years past. This has been a down year by Martin Truex Jr. standards, but he hasn't been bad. They just can't find a way to win a race. So I really and honestly do feel bad for Martin Truex Jr. He was great tonight. He's been great at Darlington in the past. He's won here a couple of times, probably should have won here a couple more times. Tonight was just a heartbreaking moment for Martin Truex Jr. So I really feel for him. I hope they continue to bounce back and show some speed these final 9 weeks. Tonight was a really good sign. One of their best races of the entire season. It's a shame they didn't get the result to show for it. Now let's talk about the playoff drivers. I guess I'll begin with Kyle Busch because he seemed to be in prime position to get the win when Martin Truex had his issue. Tonight, Kyle Busch led more laps than he has in any other race this season. This just a couple days after he hinted he may be close to announcing or signing a deal for next year at long last. Perhaps some pressure finally being lifted off his shoulders for a change. Unfortunately, a blown engine, just a fluke deal, cost him a good finish, and unfortunately is going to cost him some playoff points. Another race, another poor finish for the 18 crew. You know, Busch has been in a slump lately, statistically speaking, but he'll be the first to point out they've had a lot of speed in those races, and either bad luck, maybe poor execution, or the disqualification at Pocono. For one reason or another, they have not gotten the finishes they feel they deserve. I think just add this one to the list. They cannot shake this bad mojo going their way. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but that was very unfortunate for Kyle Busch and his playoff chances. He's still in a decent points position, but not nearly as good as he was tracking to be. Before we look at the playoff grid, though, I want to talk about one other major incident involving a playoff driver tonight. Towards the end of this race, in stage 3, Kevin Harvick's car suddenly caught fire. According to him, he actually drove another lap or two until the flames got so big he pulled over and parked it and evacuated. It was at that point that the car became completely engulfed in flames. A very scary situation. Glad Kevin Harvick appeared to be okay, but unsurprisingly, he was not happy, Harvick, in his post-race interview with USA Network, blaming the incident on, as he put it, crappy-ass parts. He had strong words to say about the next-gen car and its safety, or in his opinion, lack thereof. We've talked about that in great detail on this show recently. And then after the TV cameras were off, but other reporters were there, Kevin Harvick said, quote, "We just keep letting cars burn up, letting people crash into stuff, get hurt, and we don't fix anything. Now we're just riding around and cars catch on fire. Just shitty parts. They don't care. It's cheaper to not fix it." Very, very strong words aimed at NASCAR right there. I fully support everything Kevin Harvick says. If you watched my video a couple days ago, drivers have been voicing concerns with, we focus on how the next gen car takes or doesn't absorb hits very well, but drivers have been voicing concerns for months, actually years, about the next gen car and its safety. Now, this rocker panel area catching fire has really become an issue only in the past couple of months. As NBC did a great job of noting, we really first saw this with Chris Buescher back at, I think it was Indianapolis. And to NASCAR's credit, they then did add a small piece that seemingly should prevent anything like what happened to Chris Buescher from ever happening again. But now we've seen maybe slightly varied incidents that still stem from that similar area on the car. We've seen other drivers, notably all Fords, catch fire in the past few weeks. Some very scary incidents. The one today with Kevin Harvick, though, perhaps the most frightening, the most spectacular. I support the drivers continuing to speak up on this. As I've said before, NASCAR has a tremendous safety record that they deserve and are allowed to be proud of, but that doesn't mean you stop pushing. This year, it's a brand new car, a car that was largely tested through computer simulation, a ton of new variables. You gotta react quickly to these concerning incidents, and I hope NASCAR does. Veteran drivers like Kevin Harvick do not seem to believe NASCAR has reacted quick enough. We'll see what happens. Hopefully something comes out of this. Strong words from Harvick, but I'm gonna support him. He's the guy who just had fireballs spitting up in his face. All right, real quick, before we look at the playoff grade, here are the top finishers from tonight's race. Congrats again to Erik Jones. Love seeing a smaller, kind of newer team, GMS, getting the win. The rest of the top 5, all playoff drivers, with Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano in the mix as well. Christopher Bell gets a well-deserved top 5. He and those Toyotas were top 5, top 10 all night long. A couple of underdogs, Michael McDowell, 6th place, and Brad Keselowski with the 7th. Credit to them. William Byron finally gets a top 10 finish. Coming into tonight, it was one top 10 the past 18 races. This is just his 6th top 10 finish of the season. Congrats to him. Couldn't have come at a better time. I picked him to be out in this first round, but he showed up tonight and had some pretty good speed. Led laps early on. Good run for Bubba Wallace now in the 45. And Alex Bowman, I had him in the same boat as William Byron. Hadn't shown a lot of speed lately. Has been on kind of a top 10, a top 5 drought for the past few months. He ran well tonight, gets a 10th place finish. Pretty solid. Kyle Larson, the defending series champion, rebounded to finish 12th. Early on in this race, they had electrical issues. They were on pit road with the hood up, went 3 laps down over the course of really the rest of stage 1, all of stage 2, and even part of stage 3. They were working to get all 3 of those laps back. Thankfully, a lot of cautions came out. They played the strategy right. They chose to take the wave around versus pit at the right time. The spin where he kind of spun off turn 4 by himself, actually kind of helped their strategy, helped their recovery. Not saying he spun intentionally. He did scrape the wall a little bit, thought he might damage the car some. So I'm not saying it was an intentional spin, but it was a caution that actually kind of helped the 5 team out. Either way, he got back on the lead lap, was able to mosey his way up into the 12th place position. Good for Larson, solid recovery. Now I want to transition to looking at the playoff grid finally. I've put it off long enough. Let's take a look. A non-playoff driver won tonight, so nobody is locked into the next round, but Joey Logano plus 38 has a pretty solid cushion with 2 races in this round remaining. Kansas and then Bristol. William Byron, who again I had out in the first round, collected a ton of stage points, ran in the top 10 pretty much all night. He's plus 32 in a pretty good spot. So is Denny Hamlin sitting at plus 30. Looking down at the bottom, Kevin Harvick now minus 13 after catching fire and being unable to finish the race. Kyle Busch was looking to be up close to the top until his engine blew. As it is, he's still plus to the good, but it's tight. It's a lot more uncomfortable than I'm sure he was hoping it would be. Speaking of uncomfortable, Chase Elliott. He's plus 14. He came into this race the points leader. He was the regular season champion. Really, the 9 team just had an awful weekend all around. They qualified bad yesterday, started 23rd, really didn't move forward very much. I don't think he ever cracked the top 10 tonight while running like 12th, 13th, 14th. Spun out on his own, hit the outside wall, collected Chase Briscoe. Just a bad night. One of the worst races all season we've seen from Chase Elliott and that 9 team. Just not a good car, not a lot of speed. Driver makes a mistake, and they crashed out. I believe Chase Elliott finished last tonight, collected 0 stage points. Honestly, he's lucky to still be plus, 14? I guess that's what winning the regular season championship and 4 regular season races will do for you. The regular season does still matter, at least to an extent. Anyway, Cindric ran outside the top 15 most of the night. Same goes for Austin Dillon. Didn't expect much speed from them. Didn't really see much. Same with Chase Briscoe. Just didn't really have great speed and then got caught up, unfortunately, in that Chase Elliott crash, and that really ruined any chance of a decent night. So they're all currently in the negative. I want to talk about Daniel Suarez right there just above the cut line. He had a tremendous race going. Started last after failing inspection 3 times yesterday, but drove his way up into the top 5. I said it was tough to pass out there. Somehow Daniel Suarez found a way. Unfortunately, during the final cycle of green flag pit stops, Daniel Suarez committed the cardinal sin. He sped on pit road. Then the caution came out while he was already trapped a lap down, so they couldn't take the wave around with everybody else. They had to start at the rear, stay a lap down. He couldn't recover. I think he finished like 16th, so really that sucks for Daniel Suarez. He had a chance to really make up some points and get a bit of a cushion between him and the cut line. As it is, he's plus 2. Plus 2. I'm probably missing another notable storyline, but there you have it. There's the playoff grid. 2 races to go until the first 4 will be eliminated, or the bottom 4 will be eliminated, the first round of eliminations. The Southern 500 is a long race. Traditionally, it's a grueling race. They call this place the track too tough to tame for a reason. It's hard on parts, it's hard on pieces, it's hard on drivers, physically, emotionally. Tonight's race was typical for the Southern 500. It was long. We saw favorites come and go, drivers make mistakes who we haven't seen make many mistakes all season long, parts failing. Typical Southern 500. Let's put this thing on the groovy gauge before we get out of here. Look, the safety stuff, notably the fire with Kevin Harvick, is concerning to me, but this race was a riot. Yeah, I'm biased. It's fun to see an underdog new winner close it out in the final laps, but even if Martin Truex or Kyle Busch had gotten the win, I certainly would have given this a pretty positive score. But the shocking finish, like the TV, when all of a sudden they cut to Kyle Busch just riding around with a little bit of smoke coming out, when they all just suddenly realized, Kyle Busch is smoke, whoa, he's blown up. Like, that was just good TV. When everyone at home realized what was happening up front, the exact same moment the booth did, the fans in the stands did, because then they cut to all the fans who, everyone loves to boo Kyle Busch, they're out jeering at him for blowing up. Like, I don't know, great TV. I'm sure it was a riot in the grandstands, sellout grandstands. There's a lot of good tonight. There's some good, there's some bad, ugly stuff like Kevin Harvick's fiery crash. But when I weigh everything up against each other, I think tonight was a big win for NASCAR. It was real fun and exhilarating to watch as a fan on my couch hundreds and hundreds of miles away. I'm gonna give this run an 85%. A very, very good opening playoff race. We've seen these openers be kind of zany and crazy in the past. Tonight lived up to the hype, and it was kind of cool actually to see an underdog, a non-playoff driver, swoop in and steal the win. I believe, I saw this tweet from Kelly Crandall, reporter, that this is the first time in the chase/playoff era, that's 2004 to now, that a non-playoff or non-chase driver won the first race of the playoffs, of the chase. So Kudos to Erik Jones and the 43 team. That's awesome. Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. I think I hit on really everything I wanted to hit on tonight. NASCAR's playoff format has its flaws, no doubt, but what I like about it is that it does factor in your success, your dominance throughout the regular season. See Chase Elliott having a 14-point cushion despite finishing last. But it does still place an additional emphasis on these final 10 races. You have to execute. Chase Elliott didn't this weekend. You can't have engines blowing up like what happened to Kyle Busch. There's an added emphasis on these final 10 weeks. You have to be at your best. You know all of your competitors are. There's added tension, and it does make these final 10 races very intriguing to watch. Tonight lived up to the hype. I had a good time. I hope you guys did as well. That is going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any future uploads. We'll be doing this kind of reaction to every NASCAR Cup Series playoff race this season. And as always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters as well for going the extra mile and supporting the show. I couldn't do this without you. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend, everyone. We'll see you again later this week. There'll be lots of news, I'm sure, going into Kansas next Sunday. Thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.